Part 28. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 271. Chapter 271. The Yaomatsi of the program team. Reserved, what does it mean? Li Wangsuan was really puzzled, but Mr. Shi, who had already participated in the show once, already looked ugly. He had a hunch that his wife would explode if she heard the explanation. I was going to change the subject first, Wangsuan, I just saw a painting. Shut up first, Li Wangsuan looked at the twinkling eyes of the person in front of her. She couldn't see anything fishy in it, so she interrupted her husband directly, go on. That's it, Mr. Li. The person Li Wangsuan was staring at couldn't help but raise his hand to wipe the sweat from his forehead. Although he was considered a celebrity in the world of calligraphy and painting, it depended on who was standing in front of him. Li Wangsuan and Li the gentleman was the insurmountable mountain in front of him. At this moment, he could only curse the contestant who was using connections in his heart and replied bravely, there is a contestant who will directly parachute into the program team. We were originally going to choose 6 works from these works, just choose 5 now. As soon as the words fell, the spacious room suddenly fell into deathly silence. Another reviewer saw that the atmosphere was not right, so he quickly took out his mobile phone and sent a message. After a while, the chief director of the calligraphy and painting section of the program hurried over. Old Shi, Mr. Li, please come over early in the morning. Li Wangsuan watched with a blank face as he came in and walked up to her to greet her respectfully. Then she chuckled, and her voice even sounded gentle. Just when everyone was about to breathe a sigh of relief after seeing this, she raised her hand and tapped the works hanging around, and asked word by word, is the director doing this fair to the works of these children? The atmosphere solidified again. The director did not dare to look in the direction Li Wangsuan pointed. This, Mr. Li, this is a program after all, and the program team also has to consider the number of views. The higher the number of views, the higher the popularity of the program. The airborne contestant is a celebrity. I am also proficient in calligraphy and painting, but I am very busy with work, so I can't produce any works at the moment. For this kind of special contestant, the program team has relaxed the conditions as appropriate, and I hope you can understand. Li Wangsuan listened to his explanation carefully and sneered back. The other 2 commentators may accept this explanation and understand the airborne player's last resort. But she didn't accept it. Busy at work, this is a good excuse, but who is not busy at work? There are so many works that have been sent in these days. It is impossible for everyone to be a professional calligrapher and painter. How can they find time? How can he, a big star, not spare the time to paint his works? It's just taking shortcuts for the sake of convenience. You just agreed to it just for the popularity brought by the star. There is no principle at all. The director turned red in the face after being criticized. Li Wangsuan saw that he had no words to refute, and she knew that she had guessed correctly, and she became more and more disappointed. She only learned about the program heritage through her husband. She also watched the previous Go episode and thought it was pretty good, so she accepted the invitation to be a special commentator for this episode of calligraphy and painting. Who would have known that before the recording of the program even started, the program team would start making trouble in front of her? Thinking of this, she lowered her head and looked at the nameplate on her clothes that represented the special reviewer of heritage. She still remembered her anticipation when she put this little sign on her body. The old man found several rising stars in the Go world through the previous program, and even brought the best ones to the Go Association. She naturally wanted to see if there were any good talents so that she could bring them to their calligraphy and painting association for good training. But she didn't expect that a program could be so dirty. Seeing this, Mr. Shi secretly said something bad and grabbed his wife's hand before she could take off the small sign and throw it in the face of the director opposite. Wangsuan, come with me. The 3 people who stayed in the room watched the couple go out, looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They have finally seen the nobility and innocence of pure literati. They are just the opposite, interests come first. I hope Mr. Shi can persuade Mr. Li when Mr. Li comes back later. Please help us talk. The two commentators could only nod. They have to be persuaded to do this. Why, do you think what the director said is right? Li Wangsuan saw that her husband did not want her to give up the show, and she became cold-hearted. Shi Lao felt bitter in his heart, and said earnestly despite his wife's cold eyes, Wangsuan, this is your first time to participate in this kind of program, and you don't understand. In fact, nowadays, all major and small programs are similar. We are still a national channel, come out, it's rare to have a star player. I can't stand it anyway, so I haven't started recording yet, so I'll quit the head office, right? No, to be honest, as far as the Go chapter in the last issue was concerned, there were no stars in the entertainment industry who were proficient in Go. Later, it was just a coincidence that I found Zhang Xiao in the last episode, so there were more stars when the show started. Popularity. The views of the previous shows without Zhang Xiao are indeed quite low. I think the director must have taken this into consideration. Their primary goal is to attract more people to watch his show. This is just like you have to draw your own. It's the same with every work. We have to be considerate of him, right? Li Wangsuan's expression softened a bit, but she still insisted, then we have to follow the rules. Just because he is a star, does he have to be special? Is what he does fair to other players? But if you quit the show, what if the show team favors him because he is a star? Then give him more scenes. If you stay, at least until you are on stage, the show team will not care about you and will not care about you. Dare to go too far. After saying this, Li Wangsuan really hesitated. Looking at how much the director compromised for a star today, what the old man said is not impossible. Now it is unfair to other contestants to reserve a spot in advance. If they don't have any shots when they get to the stage, those children who have worked hard to draw and participate in the show will probably be matched with the star in the end. Just thinking about it makes me angry. No, I can't let the program team do whatever they want. Seeing his wife turn around and go back angrily, Mr. Shi breathed a sigh of relief. His wife has a tough personality, but fortunately he is quite tactful. Asterisk. The crew of Empress Yuan Zhao. The filming of a scene had just ended. When the staff of the props team were about to take away the pen, ink, paper, inkstone and other props in front of her, Zhang Lingzi raised her hand to stop her. I'll use these again, it'll be fine in half an hour. Well, I'll come back and clean up after half an hour. Thank you, sorry for the trouble by the way, I'll use this piece of paper and take it away with me later. The staff member waved their hands hurriedly, Teacher Zhang, you're welcome. It's just a piece of paper, you can bring more. After all, it is the property of the crew, so I have to tell you. The staff walked away cheerfully. He was stopped again when he passed by the monitor, and Wei Xiao waved to him. When you are putting away pens, ink, paper, and inkstones later, bring me the rice paper that the heroine used. He really didn't believe that he couldn't get a piece of writing written by Zhang Lingzi. Ah, director, I'm afraid that won't work. How? Teacher Zhang said she would take it away after she finished writing it. Wei Xiao. Waving the staff to leave, he looked in the direction of Zhang Lingzi and fell into deep thought. In the past, this girl never took away the things she had written or painted on the set because the plot required it. She kept her own things and the crew's things very separate. Why did she suddenly have to take them away by herself this time? Could it be possible that he knew he wanted to use it and keep it secretly? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 272. Chapter 272. Don't tell me she also signed up for the calligraphy and painting chapter. The studio is always noisy, especially under the influence of this hot weather. It is difficult not to make people feel impetuous. But there is an exception in one place. The three-legged incense burner was burning with borneal and mint incense, and the emperor sat leisurely in front of the large desk. Su Ling'an grabbed the job of grinding ink aside and watched Zhang Lingzi slowly lay out the rice paper on the table, then put it on the paper weight slowly and slowly, then picked a brush with a moderate thickness suitable for painting, and twisted it hairs on the tip of the pen. Finally, I couldn't help but ask, "What are you going to draw, sister?" Zhang Lingzi raised her eyes to look at her and gave it away with a smile, "You will know later. The intensity of the ink is fine, please stop." Su Ling'an quickly picked up the ink stick, took an absorbent towel and wiped the water stains on the ink stick and put it away. He stood quietly and watched the brush dipped in ink and then fell on the rice paper. There was a lot of noise around her, but at this moment, she felt that all the noise was blocked outside this small bookcase, and she felt calmer than ever before. It was not until later that she realized that this was an atmosphere that could be created inadvertently while painting. Wei Xiao sat in front of the monitor and looked at the two figures not far away who were in sharp contrast to the hustle and bustle around them. He hesitated for a while but did not bother them. He also waved over a camera crew and gave a few instructions in a low voice. Soon, a camera that had not yet been removed was quietly turned on again, focusing on Zhang Lingzi who was painting and the bookcase in front of her. After so many days of filming, Zhang Lingzi has also developed some camera sense. She noticed it almost as soon as the camera turned around, and continued to smear on the rice paper without stopping. It took no more than half an hour, and Zhang Lingzi just stopped writing when the staff member of the props team appeared again. "Remove the paperweight and pick up the painting you just finished. The weather is hot and the ink dries quickly." After the staff put away the four treasures of the study on the desk, they took a look at the painting in Zhang Lingzi's hand, and her eyes suddenly lit up. "The animal painted by teacher Zhang is so vivid." "Thanks." After taking a few more glances, the staff left with some reluctance. "It would be great if I could take a photo, but I don't dare to mention it." Just now, the staff member only dared to take a look from a few steps away. Su Ling'an no longer had such scruples. He walked directly to his sister and poked his head out. "This is a cat-goose battle." "Yes." Zhang Lingzi nodded and looked at Su Ling'an with a smile. "I'm still wondering what to call this painting, but you can give it to me." "Su Ling'an, isn't this name a little too simple?" She really just said it casually. "The content of this painting is so simple, wouldn't it be a good idea to give it a simple name?" Zhang Lingzi waved to Lu Zhengzheng who was squatting not far away. She took a marker and wrote her name and the title of the work on the back corner of the rice paper. She rolled it up and handed it to Lu Zhengzheng. In his hand, "I'll give you a temporary task. Give the painting to the Heritage Program team of Imperial TV, take a taxi there, and come back to reimburse you." Lu Zhengzheng carefully took the painting and said with a straight face, "I guarantee it will be completed smoothly." Zhang Lingzi patted her shoulder and said, "Go." Su Ling'an watched Lu Zhengzheng leave in a hurry, thinking about the lifelike ink painting he had just titled, "My sister's painting will definitely stand out." "You do have confidence in me." "Sister, don't you have any?" "Well, there are still some. After all, in order not to fall behind in front of someone, she had worked extra hard even during her busy schedule. Asterisk. 3.5 pairs of eyes, hundreds of works of different styles and levels. The reason why it is said to be 3.5 pairs is naturally because among the 4 people in the room who are reviewing the works, although Mr. Shi also has the ability to appreciate, he is not the special reviewer for the painting and calligraphy chapter. Therefore, he only has the right to express his opinions and does not decide the works. The power of whether to be selected can only be counted as half. Li Wangsuan had already put on her reading glasses. At her husband's reminder, she reluctantly closed her eyes and rested for a while. She opened her eyes again in less than 5 minutes and asked, How many works are left to read? There are still more than 10 works sent in, and the remaining ones are more than 20 electronic versions. One of the two reviewers carefully replied, Mr. Lee, Mr. Shi, you see it's almost noon, how about we come back and see the rest after we have lunch? Old Shi nodded, I agree. He also feels sorry for his wife's eyes, he hasn't been so tired for a long time. Even though there are two commentators besides his wife, in his opinion, these two people simply have no opinions of their own. When Wang Xuan said yes, the two of them agreed and said yes. When Wang Xuan said no, the two of them shook their heads. It's a good thing this time, the only one affected is Wang Xuan, who has to look at everything one by one. The two people who were secretly complained, it's not that they didn't want to mention it, but in fact, when it comes to the appreciation of calligraphy and painting, they are incomparable with Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee was furious with the program director before, so they didn't dare to say anything. As a result, Li Wangsuan shook her head and said, don't worry, just read the remaining 10 or so pictures before going to eat. Shi Lao. He glared at the two people who were looking over him, look at what I'm doing, and then look at the work. Even if he has to listen to Mr. Lee at home, he still has to listen to him outside. It took more than half an hour to read through the remaining works, and then the group of 4 people left the room. Why don't you go to the Zulai family near the TV station to eat? I'll treat you. Li Wangsuan looked at her husband doubtfully, I heard you said that there is a canteen in the station, and the food is pretty good. Ah, yes, it's on the 2nd floor. Then let's go to the cafeteria to eat, it's so hot, so don't go back and forth. The person who suggested going out to eat at his treat smiled awkwardly and said, that's fine, that's fine. It was meal time, and the food in the cafeteria was already made. The 4 of them picked up food and ate quietly in a low-key manner. After finishing the meal, they left without attracting the attention of anyone else. Walked to the elevator entrance and waited for the elevator door to open. After Li Wangsuan got on the elevator, her eyes fell on the little girl standing in the corner. To be precise, it was a roll of rice paper she held in her hand. Lu Zhengzheng couldn't help but hold her breath when she saw this somewhat serious look, and subconsciously shrank back into the corner. She was afraid that the work Sister Zixi gave her would get wrinkled and dirty, so she wore sunproof gloves all the way. Li Wangsuan noticed the little girl's vigilance, smiled helplessly, and took the initiative to ask, little girl, is what you are holding in your hand the work that was signed up for heritage, calligraphy and painting? Lu Zhengzheng then dared to look up. When he saw the old man standing in front of the elevator door, his eyes widened above the sun protection mask. He subconsciously exclaimed, Old Shi. Shi Lezheng lowered his head and pressed the door button of the elevator. He turned his head when he heard the sound, and happened to see Lu Zhengzheng's little face that was slightly red from the heat. He frowned and thought for a moment and then raised his gray eyebrows, I remember. You are the assistant next to Zhang Xiao, right? Why are you here at noon? Where is Zhang Xiao, why are you alone? Seeing an acquaintance, Lu Zhengzheng suddenly became less nervous and said, Old Shi, Sister Zixi is still filming on the set and hasn't come. I'm here to help her send her entries. Sign up. Works. Shi Lao's eyes fell on the roll of rice paper in Lu Zhengzheng's hand, he paused, and after a moment he said quietly, don't tell me, Zhang Xiao also signed up for the painting and calligraphy chapter of heritage. He is an old man and he cannot bear to be so scared. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 273. Chapter 273, Cat Goose War. Yes. Until he got out of the elevator, Mr. Shi still felt these two words echoing in his ears. I was so shocked that I didn't even know who to turn to. Lu Zhengzheng was much more relaxed. She confirmed her identity. She was sending Sister Zixie's work directly to the program team's special reviewer, so she presented the painting with both hands in the elevator to complete the task. He didn't go out after the elevator arrived. Old she, Sister Zixie is still waiting for me, so I'll go back first. Lao Shi raised his eyes and couldn't help but glance at the roll of rice paper that had been handed over to his wife. He waved his hand tiredly. Go, be careful on the road. The staff member of the TV station who was responsible for leading Zheng Zheng up did not expect that the little girl in front of him who was just here to help people deliver their registration works actually knew the famous Mr. Shi. He had been standing in the corner after the big bosses got out of the elevator. Without daring to say anything, she looked at Lu Zhengzheng again, and her enthusiasm suddenly rose several steps. She thought of the registration done by this person at the front desk, and said with a smile, Miss Lu probably hasn't eaten yet, and I'm going to the second floor just in time. Let's eat in the cafeteria. Miss Lu, why don't you come with me to have a casual meal? No, Lu Zhengzheng refused with a smile. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm in a hurry to go back. Although she was nervous just now, she could clearly see that this person suddenly became so enthusiastic after seeing Mr. Shi meet her. But she also knew in her heart that the reason why Mr. Shi would talk to her so amiably was not because of her arrogance, but because of Sister Zixie's face. Oh well. The other side. Back in the room where the works were placed, Li Wangsuan looked at the unopened works in her hands and frowned. The more people sign up, the more talents there are in the field of calligraphy and painting. She is naturally happy about this status quo. But she was also afraid that the owner of the work in her hand had tasted the sweetness brought by the last Go chapter and would not bother continuing with this calligraphy and painting chapter. Just in case, if this work is not satisfactory, Lao Shi is right next to me, and it will be somewhat embarrassing then. Compared to Li Wangsuan's delicate thoughts, Mr. Shi didn't think so much. Seeing his wife put the painting on the table, he reached over to help unfold the painting. As soon as he touched it, he was held down by a familiar hand. Old Stone. Hearing that his wife's voice was a little solemn, he turned around and saw a solemn face. What's the matter? I'm not good at Go, but if you can get this girl Zhang to join the Go Association, her level is definitely not low. But she is only so old, and her main job is an actor in filming. You don't know how much energy it will take to learn Go well. But she actually knows how to calligraphy and painting. I'm afraid that she wanted to participate in this calligraphy and painting episode because she tasted the benefits of the previous episode. After listening to his wife's analysis, Mr. Shi shook his head without thinking. Zhang Xiao is not that kind of person. Seeing that his wife was about to speak, he quickly said, look at the work first, look at the work first. Li Wangsuan couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. You are not afraid of being disappointed after reading it, so I was even less afraid. I let go of my hand and let Mr. Shi unfold the painting. The crew had limited conditions, so Zhang Lingzi only used black and vermilion ink to complete this painting. As the rice paper, which was not very large, was slowly unfolded, what caught their eyes was a black cat jumping on the paper and a big white goose flapping its wings and getting ready to go. The black cat is strong and vigorous, its front paws are already lit up, and it can even be seen that it is already in a slightly hairy state. Its black pupils stand in a straight line, alert and ready to attack. The white goose is fierce. Taking advantage of its larger size, it directly stretches its neck and assumes an attacking posture. The little cinnabar is used on its head, which is as red as dripping blood, as a finishing touch. Mr. Shi couldn't help holding his breath. He didn't know the professional comments about techniques and other things from his wife and the other two reviewers, but he just wanted to say, I don't know who will win in the end between the cat and the goose. Li Wangsuan couldn't help but take a deep breath, looked away from the angry red hair dripping with blood, and turned the declaration to the back. She saw the artist's name and the title of the work written in marker in the corner, and twitched. He raised his eyes from the corner of his mouth and looked at the other two reviewers who had come over at some point. This painting has also been selected. What are your opinions? The two people who were asked looked at each other and looked at each other. They also agree with this opinion. Sometimes the simpler the painting, the better it can show off one's skills. The painting in front of me only uses simple black and white space, and with just a few strokes, it depicts the battle between two animals very vividly. If this is not selected, it is somewhat unjustifiable. But, we have a total of 5 places in our hands now, and with this one in mind, there is no place left. There are more than 20 electronic versions of this book that I haven't read yet. If this one is left, then one of the 4 selected ones will be removed. Mr. Lee only looked at whether the paintings were good or not, but they still remembered this. In the morning, they were also picking up the quota without leaving a trace. They originally wanted to reserve a quota for one of the more than 20 electronic versions. There was an accident. Lee Wangsuan looked at the 2 temporary colleagues in front of her who were carefully waiting for her to make a decision. After pondering for a moment, she shook her head decisively. Her chief director can even put a star on the show without following the rules. I will give you an extra spot, it shouldn't be too much, right? 2 people. In unison, he wiped the sweat from his head and shook his head in unison. It's not too much. The key is that they don't dare to go too far. The electronic version of the work, even if it was taken with the original camera, will be somewhat distorted. Definitely not as good as if it were sent directly. However, some of the registered contestants are too far away from here. Rather than having their works tossed around on the road after the deadline, it would be safer to send the electronic version directly. However, some people have come up with ingenuity to deal with this disadvantage. In addition to pictures of their works, some people have also uploaded the editing and acceleration process of their own paintings. The main purpose is to leave more impression on the reviewers. Lee Wangsuan read every single one without missing a beat, and then told her colleague holding the remote control without any emotion, "Next one." The person holding the remote control pressed the page button and couldn't help but remind him in a low voice, "There is only the last page left. Is it possible that out of these 20-odd works, you can't even choose the last one?" As a result, as soon as he finished the reminder, he heard a familiar command, "Next one." Hand gritted his teeth, the page-turning key was pressed again. A picture that was a little dim and blurry suddenly appeared on the LCD screen. The key is that it's still small. Here, how did you take this? How dare you upload it when it's so blurry? You can't even see what the picture is. Isn't it someone deliberately teasing the show crew? Just when the person was so angry that he was about to turn off the screen, he finally heard a different command, enlarge the picture. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 274. Chapter 274 Fairness and Airborne. The hand holding the remote control subconsciously followed the instructions. The photo, which was originally small and blurry, was slowly enlarged several times, and the people present finally saw clearly what was painted on the painting. But after seeing it clearly, the 4 elderly people couldn't help but be startled. It is a vicissitudes of ancient city building full of traces of time. The gray brick walls are intertwined with the gray sky, which makes people feel depressed for no reason. But in the corner of the painting, there is green grass trying to poke its head out from the cracks in the bricks, blooming with small white flowers swaying in the wind. There is even a brightly colored kite, lighting up the dark and oppressive sky. The string of the kite spreads to the edge of the painting. Although the person flying the kite cannot be seen, it can still make people think of a lively and lovely child. The originally blurry image, at this moment, is more like the scene in the painter's memory. Because it is memory, it is blurry. After a while, a voice broke the silence at this moment, This painting is called Mian Sheng. Remembering and reviving, that's quite appropriate. Li Wangsuan wrote down the name of the painter, Su Yi. This painting Memory of Life has been selected. Do you two have any objections? Without. Deserved. Since then, all 6 places have been claimed. But except for Li Wangsuan, the other 2 people still had uneasy expressions. Li Wangsuan naturally knew what they were worried about. I will tell the director about the extra spot. It was originally decided by me. Then, I'll trouble Mr. Li. Li Wangsuan dared to argue with the director because of his irreplaceability and his ability to be strong without desire. But they can only nod when faced with any decision made by the program team. After all, if they don't want to be on this show, there will be many people who will squeeze them out. Not every painting by an artist is a masterpiece when it is born, there are many scraps, and they also have to be right. A total of 6 works have been selected, and quotas are available. Seeing that his wife looked a little worried, Mr. Shi quickly interrupted the director and told him to look at the short list first. Director, let's look at the short list and the works first. Since this director can be the director of this issue of calligraphy and painting, he naturally has a certain appreciation of calligraphy and painting, so he had no choice but to read the work first. After reading the 5 paper works and 1 electronic version one by one, I complimented, Mr. Li's vision definitely does not need to be doubted by us. He changed his voice and said, it's just the electronic version. Compared with the previous 5 works, are they a little inferior? Seeing that the director wanted to exclude the electronic version, Li Wangsuan said firmly, I will definitely keep this one. These 4 pictures in front. Mr. Shi quickly clicked on the picture of Cat and Goose War without leaving any trace. Director, among the guests selected for this issue, there is an old acquaintance of our program. Old acquaintance, the director then noticed a familiar name, Zhang Lingzi, who defeated Zhang Lingxi in the final game of the previous Go chapter. Mr. Shi couldn't help but listen to his raised tone and his shocked expression. He nodded with satisfaction, and the old man said, isn't it her? At last he was not the only one shocked. Zhang Xiao's participation in the last episode has brought obvious popularity to the show. Now it's just 1 more spot, and you don't want it yet. Are you out of your mind? Shouldn't this be a fun experience? Although he was scolded a lot, the director was not angry at all. He even grinned and echoed, it's indeed a good thing. I didn't expect that teacher Zhang is not only good at Go, but also good at calligraphy and painting. I just read it. Among these works, the one that impressed me the most was the one of cats and geese fighting. The key is that Zhang Lingzi is still a star. He insisted on making an exception despite Mr. Li's scolding because of that star. Now there is another one, plus the self-recommended reviewer, he can even imagine him in this issue. When the calligraphy and painting chapter was aired, it was even more popular than the previous Go chapter. If it weren't for the 2 seniors in front of him, he would have to worry about his image, and he would have burst out laughing uncontrollably. By the way, Mr. Li, Mr. Shi, I have some good news. The commentators have finally gathered together in this issue of calligraphy and painting. Speaking of the setting of this commentator, the program team also shed tears of bitterness. Originally, there were 5 positions for reviewers. The person holding this position must be a big shot in the industry or well known enough, but he must be a person who is worthy of this position. Just like those top figures in the entertainment industry, their popularity is high enough, and they have tens of millions of fans as soon as they start. But if you don't know anything about music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, even if you sit in this position, if you can't explain it in the review session, you will only be laughed at by the crowd. Hence, although this position is very popular, no one dares to contact the program team to ask for this spot. As for the Go chapter in the last issue, because Go is even less popular than calligraphy, painting, and musical instruments in modern times, the reviewer only invited 2 people to come out, leaving more than half of the seats vacant. This issue was actually able to be put together, and the director feels full of accomplishment. Oh, what about the other two? Lee Wangsuan was a little curious. Could it be that there were a few old guys who saw her coming to this show and followed her? But this is not like the character of those people. Why didn't they come today? The director smiled and said, well, those two teachers are very busy and will not arrive until the recording of the program starts. That's really busy. Yes, we'll meet up anyway. Lee Wangsuan couldn't help but see that the director's expression was a bit unnatural, so she had no intention of getting to the bottom of it. Mr. Shi pretended to look at his watch on the side. Wangsuan, you have been busy for most of the day, why don't you go back and rest now? I think you are in a hurry to go back. Let's go, my eyes do hurt a little. You can give me a massage when you get back. Okay, okay. The director quickly and respectfully sent away the two seniors who were showing off their affection as if no one else was around. Asterisk. Zhang Lingzi was listening to Lu Zhengzheng, who had rushed back, report on the results of the mission. Just when he transferred the taxi money to her and was about to put down the phone, he noticed that the phone vibrated. Looking down, he saw that Mr. Shi had just sent a message. The symbol is simple and has rich meaning. She curled her lips and started typing. I just heard Zheng Zheng mention that you were always there when she sent her works in the past. Is this a woman singing along with her husband? After reading the reply, Mr. Shi said, You girl, you actually know how to paint Chinese paintings, and you actually signed up without telling me. You and Mr. Li, the reviewer this time, are always married. I always have to avoid suspicion. This is only fair. Mr. Shi couldn't help but laugh happily while looking at the screen of his mobile phone. He glanced at this reply to his wife sitting next to him, and then continued to type and complain slowly, You are too honest, girl. This issues there was a guest on the show who was also a star like you, but he found a connection and skipped the selection process of submitting works, and became a guest on the show directly. These words are both a complaint and a reminder. They are both celebrities. When the time comes to compete on the same stage, they will definitely be compared by fans on both sides. Zhang Lingzi naturally understood Mr. Shi's subtle reminder, but the star who landed directly couldn't be that Jing Huai, right? After being rejected by her side, he was able to find other connections to get a spot, which is quite capable. I just don't know if this ability can be extended to the show. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 275. Chapter 275 2 tickets. The news of the selected work was sent, and Tong Yu immediately called Zhang Lingzi. You can do it, there are hundreds of works, but only 6 people were selected. I'm really worried about you. I didn't expect that you were actually selected. Zhang Lingzi had just finished shooting a scene. She took the tissue from Lu Zhengzheng and wiped her sweat while answering. After listening, she said, Yeah. Tong Yu. The reaction of my own artist was so bland, which made me look like a fool when I closed the office door and laughed wildly for a minute after reading the news. You shouldn't have known that you would be selected early on, right? Zhang Lingzi put the sweat-wiped tissue into the trash can with precision. Yesterday Mr. Shi accompanied Mr. Li to see the sent works, and then sent me a message. Although he didn't directly say whether I was selected, I read between the lines of his words. You can guess it too. If she was not selected, Shi Lao's tone of chatting with her would not be so relaxed. Nor will she be specifically reminded that a celebrity will appear on this episode. At that time she knew that they were inseparable. No wonder your reaction is so dull. Tong Yu felt comforted in her heart, but couldn't help but sigh. This is the benefit of having someone inside. Old Shi also revealed something to me. This issue of calligraphy and painting will feature a star directly parachuted into the air. Zhang Lingzi's tone was still calm, but Tong Yu couldn't keep calm anymore. She stood up from the office chair and slapped her hand on the table. Who? You know Mr. Shi and you signed up according to the program procedures. Who is so proud that he can land directly? Wait, isn't it Jinghui? Wouldn't he be rejected by us? Where did he find the connection? Not sure, but it's very likely that it's him. Tong Yu frowned and took a deep breath to calm down. It's really Jinghui who is going to be airborne. I guess Li Yuan and that kid are quite capable. It's understandable that Li Yuan suddenly said that to me 2 days ago. What words? Tong Yu sneered and said, she told me it was a pity and that we didn't know what we were giving up. I was confused at the time and thought this person had lost his mind and gone crazy. I guess the two of them would have left at that time. Only through other connections did he dare to come to me and show his confidence. As he spoke, his tone became more solemn. I just don't know what kind of relationship they have, and they actually gave him an unofficial appointment before selecting the works. This speed is not unpleasant, and such a fast speed means that the other party should have a great say in the program group. Either someone within the program team who can call the shots, or a heavyweight guest. We rejected Jinghui, and he will probably deliberately target you during the recording. This is not an alarmist statement on her part, it is something that is likely to happen. There are only so many shots and duration in a show. Some people have more shots and some have less shots. If you mess with it during post-editing, your shots may be cut down to just a few. If this thing really happens, it will be really thankless. Zhang Lingzi was leaning on the rest chair, with a slightly tired and lazy look on her face. After listening to Tong Yu's worries and predictions, she just gave a slight hum to indicate that she was listening, and then replied casually, that's up to him too. It can be targeted. Tong Yu, okay, all I need is your confidence. However, you still have to be on guard against what you need to be careful about. It's always good to be careful. Be careful when sailing for thousands of years. I see. Tong Yu could hear the tiredness in Zhang Lingzi's voice. I'll go with you when the program is being recorded. You can't just let Zheng Zheng follow you this time, otherwise I'm still worried. Okay, I'll hang up. You can take a break. Zhang Lingzi held the phone that ended the call and turned it around in her hand. She turned her head and met Su Lingan's little eyes. What's going on? Sister, can you also take me with you? I will be your assistant just like Sister Zheng Zheng. Zhang Lingzi raised her hand and touched her head. If nothing else, she couldn't resist the look alone. Take it, take it. Thank you, sister. In return, I will write some more math problems for my sister. Zhang Lingzi. It's really such a heavy reward. Asterisk. In a border town thousands of kilometers away from the imperial capital. The girl washed her clothes by the river and returned home carrying a plastic bucket full of clothes. Before she had time to hang up the clothes, a mobile phone with a cracked screen was handed to her by a shaky hand. The boy with a crew cut showing a few old and new scars on his scalp smiled at the girl. Sister, look, text message. Su Yi wiped his hands before taking the phone and trying hard to identify the content of the text message through the cracks on the screen. The young man said proudly at the side, Sister, let me tell you, you are so good at painting, you will definitely be chosen, so you are chosen. Su Yi had just read the content of the text message, but her expression was still calm, which was in sharp contrast to the young man beside her who was happy for her. She handed over the phone and said calmly, No. The joy on the young man's face suddenly froze, and his brows were furrowed with confusion. Why? Why didn't you go if you were chosen? What a great opportunity. Su Yi hung her clothes on the rope unhurriedly. When she finally got impatient with the young man who was surrounding her and asking questions, she stopped and explained angrily, You know the imperial capital is far away from us. How expensive is the trip? Besides, what will you do if I go there? Do you think I'll be safe if I leave you here alone? Who asked you to secretly take pictures of me and sign up? Did you ask for my permission? The young man was dumbfounded by the direct question. He opened his mouth and couldn't answer a single question. When Su Yi started hanging clothes again, he defended himself in a low voice, I didn't think that much at all. And, I think sister, you are so good at painting, you will definitely be selected before signing up. Of. Suyi just pretended not to hear, finished drying the clothes and went into the house to cook without stopping. The young man was left standing there scratching his head, reading the text message over and over again with his cell phone, then suddenly raised his legs and ran out of the yard. When Suyi finished cooking and came out to call the boy to come in for dinner, he saw that the boy was nowhere to be seen in the empty yard. By the time the young man appeared again, the sky was already filled with sunset. Suyi stood in front of the simple wooden table set up in the yard and put down the last stroke. When I was cleaning up, I looked at the few paints left and the brush that was about to become bald, and pursed my lips hard. These were left to her by the teacher who taught her how to draw. She has been using them sparingly, but she is about to run out of them. When she is done with it, she will seal the pen. In this place, everyone just wants food, clothing, and health. No matter how good her painting is, she can't get a penny back. Sicheng, Suyi caught a glimpse of the young man who had disappeared for a long time from the corner of his eye. Suyi suddenly became furious. Where have you been sneaking away again? There has been some instability in the town recently. Are you trying to make me worry? Die. Sister, Sicheng huddled his head and stood obediently in front of his sister. He lowered his head and endured the training honestly, and admitted his mistake obediently. He noticed that his sister's anger was almost gone, and then he raised his head. His eyes were astonishingly bright. He took out 2 clean tickets with no wrinkles at all from his trouser pocket. These are the tickets to the imperial capital. I asked Uncle Lin for help. Sister, I know you are worried about me, so I will go with you. You like painting so much, and after much thought, I still feel that I cannot miss such a good opportunity. Sister, I still remember what teacher Jian said, you should go and see more the vast sky. Let's go and have a look, okay? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 276. Chapter 276 Room Card. The day will soon come when Heritage from Ancient Times, Calligraphy and Painting chapter will be released. Wei Xiao was a little emotional when he received Zhang Lingzi's request for leave. He was just watching Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing play chess, and his interest was aroused, so he chatted with Mr. Shi. As a result, the artists from his crew were sent to the program Heritage. Now that Heritage has recorded the painting and calligraphy chapter, the work Zhang Lingzi drew on the set has been selected again, and she will continue to record the program. No matter how this is calculated, he is also responsible. But the reason why he was so happy to criticize the fake was not just that, it's okay, you've been working a little filming during this period, so you can just relax a little bit by recording a show. There was one more thing he didn't say, which also made the actors in the crew who were playing with you breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, and him. The actor worked harder than the director himself. He was really pleased at first, but now he is a bit overwhelmed as a director. So Zhang Lingzi easily got 3 days of complete vacation. Also received envious looks from colleagues. But after learning about her announcement during this period, they quickly took back their envy. They would rather shoot slower, but really, they can't compete. Seeing the black business car driving Demon King Zhang out of sight, everyone cheered silently in their hearts. Asterisk. Leaving the crew, Zhang Lingzi didn't know the pressure she had put on everyone in the crew during this period. At this moment, she just silently glanced at the room card that Lu Zhengzheng took out. Not the one at the crew hotel. Fortunately, Lu Zhengzheng quickly clarified her doubts. Sister Zixi, this is the room card sent by the Heritage program team. They mean that most of the guests in this episode are amateurs, and they are not. It's a local in the imperial capital, so for management reasons, we simply arranged a fixed place to stay. And the hotel is near the imperial capital TV station, so it's convenient to come and go. After a pause, she added, "Of course, it's fine if you don't want to stay there, I don't think so. If you feel comfortable, you can go home or find a place to live on your own, as long as you don't be late when recording the show." Zhang Lingzi nodded, and after searching the distance between her home and Imperial TV station on her mobile phone, she made a decisive decision: go to the hotel. Lu Zhengzheng told the driver to turn around without any surprise. Compared to wasting time going back and forth on the road, this time Su Ling'an is still here. It is indeed better to stay in the hotel room and read books and do questions comfortably during this time. But some people have different choices. Since every guest has a room card issued by the program team, Jing Huai also got one here. However, after learning that the hotel arranged by the crew was close, but it was only a 4-star hotel, and it was not the best presidential suite, it was just an executive suite, he asked his assistant to collect the room card and find one at his own expense. We bought a 5-star hotel and generously purchased 2 presidential suites on the same floor. When Su Qingmei received the 5-star hotel keycard from Jing Hui's assistant, she had just unilaterally informed Lin Ying that she was going to record a program at Imperial TV station in the next few days. Lin Ying, who has already scheduled announcements for the next few days. He silently swallowed a mouthful of old blood and said, "If this happens again in the future, please tell Teacher Su a few days in advance." Isn't this just increasing his workload? If an ordinary actor had done this, he would have been scolded to death. Su Qingmei responded casually, "Okay, I will pay attention." Lin Ying frowned. She didn't feel reassured by this look, but she couldn't say anything more. She could only watch the person get up and leave as if nothing had happened. He is sensible. Su Qingmei, who returned to the private lounge, played with the delicate keycard in her hand and glanced casually at assistant Jing Huai, who was standing in front of her respectfully, waiting for a reply. Jing Huai said that Mr. Su's comfortable stay is the most important thing to him. Su Qingmei then tapped her chin lightly and said, "If you're interested, go back." The door to the lounge opened, and assistant Jing Huai was sent away, who breathed a sigh of relief after completing the task. Soon he was knocked twice again by Zhang Ziyu, who was sitting in a wheelchair. "Sister Qingmei, I heard that you will be away from the crew for how many days?" Su Qingmei threw the keycard on the coffee table in front of her, glanced at Zhang Ziyu and nodded, "You are quite well informed." Zhang Ziyu quickly explained, "When you just asked for leave from Director Lin, my assistant Xiao Tao happened to be nearby. I didn't know until this girl came back and told me." "Is Sister Qingmei going to record a show?" she said, and glanced at the keycard that Su Qingmei had thrown on the coffee table. The name of a 5-star hotel, with a very auspicious golden room number. Based on her knowledge of major hotels, the presidential suite is undoubtedly the best choice. This is the face of a super A-list star, it's so exciting. Su Qingmei noticed Zhang Ziyu's gaze on the room card, raised her lips disdainfully, and replied casually, "It's a program called Heritage, organized by the national television station, and I am the special commentator for this episode." 1. National Radio. "She is still a special commentator," Zhang Ziyu couldn't help exclaiming, with a hint of envy in his voice. "Sister Qingmei is so awesome, I haven't been on any national radio program yet." "You are still young, and you will have opportunities in the future." However, thinking of the news she had just received not long ago, Su Qingmei looked at Zhang Ziyu with envy and jealousy in her eyes. "I heard that there are other guests in this issue. Where is Zhang Lingzi?" Zhang Ziyu's expression suddenly twisted uncontrollably. "Yes, really. Then she is really lucky to be on the same stage with you, Sister Qingmei." Su Qingmei stood up, walked to Zhang Ziyu, bent down slightly, and patted her shoulder. "You really have to work harder. You two look very similar, and you have more fans than her, and more negative fans than her. She's less, that's your advantage. Thank you, Sister King Mei, for the tip. I have a scene later, so I won't disturb your rest. After leaving the lounge, Zhang Ziyu lowered his eyes to cover up the gloom in his eyes. Before she came to see Su King Mei, she guessed that the other party had another announcement, but she never expected that the other party was going to appear on a variety show on national Taiwan. But Su King Mei was able to get in. Although she envied him, she was not jealous because he was famous enough and had a high status. But Zhang Lingzi, why should she? Xiao Tao pushed the wheelchair, her lowered eyes fell on Zhang Ziyu's hands on his knees. Looking at the veins popping up on the back of his hands due to excessive exertion, it can be seen how angry and unwilling this person is, but he still has to endure it in front of others. Since Zhang Ziyu couldn't see her, she smiled silently while pushing her wheelchair forward. Be angry, the angrier the better, it's best to vent your anger, then she will only be happier. Asterisk. On the other side, in a remote long-distance bus station in the imperial capital, a semi-old car from a small border town slowly entered the station, loaded with passengers who had boarded one after another along the way. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 277. Chapter 277. The Su family siblings invade the imperial capital. Sister, wake up quickly, we are in the imperial capital. Su Yi woke up in a daze after his arm was tapped several times. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the passengers in the carriage were already moving. At this moment, the bus has not completely stopped, but everyone is already eager to pick up their luggage and prepare to get off. Sister Sicheng moved her head away from his shoulder, stood up immediately, and moved her already stiff body on the spot. Suddenly, there was a crackling sound in the bones all over her body. Then he took off their backpacks from the luggage rack, unzipped them and took out the plastic water cups inside, unscrewed the lids and handed them over. Su Yi took a few sips of water from the water glass and kept some. After Sicheng took it back, he drank it in 3 or 2 gulps and breathed a sigh of relief. We're finally here. Su Yi brushed his sweaty hair from his forehead, and couldn't help but curl his lips when he saw Sicheng's sad look on his face. This boy has always been full of energy, and this was the first time she saw her younger brother look tired. However, this journey is indeed not without difficulty. The journey lasted almost 3 days and 3 nights, and they could only sit on the narrow seats in this closed carriage. If they wanted to go to the toilet, they had to wait until the car drove into the service area. They didn't even dare to drink more water on the way. They almost got into the wrong car when they were reversing. If Su Yi hadn't noticed something was wrong and asked the driver in time before the car started, they would have gone back and forth from where they came. Yeah, we're finally here. As he spoke, the bus finally stopped. The door opened, and passengers immediately crowded out of the car. The siblings also got out of the car with the flow of people. Without the air conditioning in the car, the hot July weather in the imperial capital suddenly hit their faces. This imperial capital is much hotter than ours. Su Yi squinted his eyes and looked up at the dazzling sun. Indeed. Go get your luggage quickly. Not long after, Sicheng had another colorful woven bag with 2 patches on it. Sister, I'll give you the mobile phone. The mobile phones are placed on the city along the way. The border town is not as good as the inland. Stealing mobile phones and robbing mobile phones are commonplace. Sicheng takes mobile phones to be safer than placing in the hands of Su Yi. But now that they are in the imperial capital, the safest place in the country, they don't have to worry about this. His sister needs this mobile phone more now. In order to save power, mobile phones are always turned off when on the road. Su Yi took the phone and turned it on first. There's a text message. Seeing that she was standing under the bright sun and wanted to take a look, Sicheng tugged her arm quickly and said, there is a car here and it's still in the sun, let's go over there first and then take a look. 3 minutes later, the siblings squatted in the shade at the base of the wall and finished reading the text message. Suyi had an expression of relief on his face, and his voice was a little more joyful. That's great, the program team also provides a place to stay. The reason why they brought so much luggage was that if they ran out of money to stay, they would find a place like a bridge to make do. But even though I don't have to worry about where to stay now, I still can't bear to throw away the luggage I brought along. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go quickly. Sister Sicheng rubbed his belly and said longingly, it would be better if you still manage to eat. Greedy, just be satisfied if you have a place to live, Sui said, but after leaving the station, his eyes began to search for the stores near the station. I'm a little hungry too, let's buy some food before setting off. But after asking how much a bowl of water would cost, the siblings paused as they were about to sit down. After looking at each other, they said, sorry, boss, we don't want it anymore. Coming out of the store, a middle-aged man came over. After taking a look at the two siblings, he asked, are you taking the car? How much does it cost to go to Hongcheng Tujing Hotel? After hearing the destination of the siblings, the middle-aged man was stunned. After taking another look at the siblings' clothes and the patched woven bag, he stretched out a finger and said, one price, 100. The siblings both showed shocked expressions. Seeing this, the middle-aged man patiently explained, we are in the suburbs. The hotel you are going to is in the city center. It would take me 2 or 3 hours to drive there. 100 yuan is a very conscientious price. You guys ask around for other cars, and there is absolutely no one with a price lower than this. How long will it take to walk there? The middle-aged man left with a complicated look on his face. Fortunately, before the siblings were really ready to walk there on their legs, they found out that there was a bus going to the city center at the station. The cost of 2 yuan per person was more acceptable than the 100 yuan taxi fare. Too much. Finally getting off the crowded bus, the two of them looked at a circle of towering high-rise buildings around them, and for a moment they felt that their eyesight was not enough. They had seen the prosperity of the imperial capital on TV in small towns, but they were not as shocked as they were by being there. Sister, Sicheng finally looked away, can you still distinguish between east, west, north, and south? Suyi. Although she really didn't want to admit it, she really couldn't tell the difference at the moment. Sicheng patted his chest and volunteered, sister, you wait here, I'll ask for directions. After placing the people and luggage on a clean bench by the roadside, Sicheng took out his cell phone and looked around. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, stopping a young man who looked about the same age as him. After saying hello a little unfamiliarly, the person stopped and looked over, do you know how to get to Hongcheng Tujing Hotel? Hongcheng picture, the boy who was stopped subconsciously repeated it, and then looked up and down at the person in front of him. Gray short-sleeved clothes that were washed out and white, trousers that were obviously too short, and a pair of rare artificial cloth shoes, he didn't look like someone who could stay in a 4-star hotel. Are you sure you want to go to Hongcheng Tujing? Sicheng has long been accustomed to such looking eyes, which is why he asked his sister to rest and volunteer to ask for directions. After all, he is thick-skinned. Sure, do you know how to get there? I know, forget it, I have to go nearby anyway, so I'll take you there directly. Thank you, please wait for me and I'll call my sister. The young man stood there and looked at the two siblings who were walking back, and then looked at the woven bags they were holding. He opened his mouth without saying anything, and led them to a black car parked on the roadside. The car door opened, bringing out the cool wind and faint fragrance. Sicheng looked at the young man who motioned for them to get in the car, a little dumbfounded. How about you draw a road map for us and we can find it ourselves? They haven't been able to take a shower for 3 days, so how can they be embarrassed to ride in such a clean and expensive car? The roads get denser and more winding as we head into the city. If you're not careful, you might end up at the wrong intersection. Are you sure you can find it on your own? Stop dawdling and come up quickly. It's rare for me to want to do something good. The young man's expression became serious as he spoke. It was a rare moment for him to feel compassion, but the other party actually didn't accept it. Uncle Lin, help them put this luggage in the trunk. Okay, young master. The two siblings got into the car bravely and sat down solemnly, their hands firmly placed on their knees and motionless. The car door closed, blocking out the heat outside, and quickly merged smoothly into the traffic flow. The car was quiet until two cell phone rings rang almost at the same time. Suyi turned on his mobile phone and saw another message just sent by the program team. Dear Teacher Su, please go to conference room 301 on the third floor of Imperial TV before 6 o'clock in the evening to meet with the Heritage Program team. Sicheng turned his head and asked in a low voice, Sister, is there another news from the program team? Well, Suyi replied in the same low voice, the program team asked us to meet before 6 o'clock in the evening, so there must be some arrangements. She looked at the time again. It's okay, I should be able to make it in time. After the siblings exchanged words in a low voice, they raised their heads and met the eyes of the co-pilot in front of them. The young man had a look of astonishment on his face at this moment. You guys are also going to Legendary, right? Yeah, Suyi was stunned, and then she saw the young man shaking the phone in his hand towards her, and there was also a message displayed on the screen. The only difference is that Su is replaced by Shen. Ahem, my name is Shen Heshen. My name is Suyi, and this is my younger brother, Sicheng. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 278. Chapter 278, The Endurance of the Mountain and the Moon. When Zhang Lingzi received this text message, she had already checked into the hotel room arranged for her by the program team. The suite happened to have a living room and 2 bedrooms. She lived in one room, and Su Linggan and Lu Zhengzheng lived in the other room. After reading the message, she checked that the time was still early, so she went back to her room and took a rare nap. When she woke up and turned on her phone, she saw that it was already past 3 in the afternoon. There are 2 more messages on the screen that were just sent more than 10 minutes ago. When she finished her reply and came out of the message room, she saw Su Lingyan sitting on the sofa, looking like he had just woken up. He glanced at the ajar bedroom door opposite. Is your sister Zhengzheng still sleeping? No, she went downstairs to pick up Sister Tong. Tong Yu visited the crew before, and Su Lingyan also met her a few times. The other party also asked him if he wanted to be a contracted artist like his sister, but after knowing her college entrance examination results, he never asked again. Only asked her to study hard. When Cao arrived, Zhang Lingzi sat down and just picked up the cup and took a sip of water when the door of the room was pushed open from the outside. Tong Yu's people came in together with the voice, just go to the door of the room, be careful, thank you for your hard work. Zhang Lingzi turned around and looked over, and saw behind Tong Yu and Lu Zhengzheng, 2 other people in hotel uniforms were working together to carry a large box in and put it at the door before leaving. Sister Tong, are you moving? What? Tong Yu wiped her sweat and patted the box on the ground. This is your jersey for the next few days. This time is different from last time. Jinghui will definitely try their best to grab it. For the camera, you can't dress as simply as last time without even putting on makeup. This shirt is very important. She said with a mysterious smile, you will never guess which brand I got sponsorship from this time. When they contacted me, even I was shocked. Zhang Lingzi had already put down her cup and walked over. When she got to the box, Lu Zhengzheng had already opened the box diligently. The 4 people present all looked down and the Tong Yu microphone suddenly went silent. Lu Zhengzheng has always been responsible for sorting out the clothes of her artists, but at this moment, she looked at her paws and did not dare to pick up the clothes. In this silence, Zhang Lingzi stretched out her hand and gently brushed the exquisite handmade embroidery of exotic animals on the neatly arranged white dress at the top. Then she flipped through the inside of the dress and saw, as expected, the embroidery on the inner layer. Dark lines. The pure ancient Chinese characters were read out in a low voice by Su Ling'an, the only person present at the scene, the eternity of the mountains and the moon. It turns out, Tong Yu's eyes widened suddenly, with a look of realization on her face. I have heard before that each piece of Shan Yu's Haiheng's clothes has a special mark that no one can copy. It turns out that this mark is hidden in the dress. The inner layer is covered with embroidered patterns on the outside. It's really. Let's not talk about the amazing embroidery work, let's just talk about the ingenuity. You can imagine how difficult it is to imitate. Zhang Lingzi had already picked up the dress while she was speaking. Tong Yu was silenced again. This is not the first time she has seen Shan Yu's Haiheng's dress. She has also found ways to see this brand's international show before, and even spent a lot of money to buy an embroidered silk scarf from this brand. But none of the ones she had seen before were as stunning as the dress in front of her now. Zhang Lingzi looked at the dress in her hand carefully with deep eyes, and finally touched the place where the mountain and moon eternal mark was embroidered. After a while, she handed it to Lu Zhengzheng, "Go and hang it up. Along with what's left in the box." Lu Zhengzheng quickly took it with both hands, as if he was holding a priceless treasure at this moment. After the remaining 2 sets of dresses were hung up, Tong Yu suddenly remembered something after she was amazed. "Wait a minute, Xiao 11, how do you know that there is a special mark on the back of Shan Yu's Haiheng's clothes?" Zhang Lingzi glanced at her and pursed her lips. "I've seen her before. But this was indeed a long time ago, as long as a lifetime ago. Familiar fabrics and familiar patterns, with only slight differences in style and a few modern elements. It was something she often wore in her previous life. How could she not be familiar with it? I'm telling you." Tong Yu had no doubts. She smiled from ear to ear as she looked at the 3 hanging suits. "These uniforms are more powerful than I thought. Oh, Zioxi, tell me, the eternity of the mountains and the moon, are they planning to find you as a spokesperson? I heard that their family has never found a spokesperson. If they find you, you will be the first spokesperson." Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but pat her shoulder. "Okay, Sister Tong, stop it. Haha, I just thought about it. What if it comes true? I'm going to go out." "Where are you going?" "I just heard from Zheng Zheng that you have to gather before 6 o'clock. Zhang Lingzi put her cell phone in her pocket. "Lao Shi just sent me a message and asked me to go downstairs to have a cup of tea with him." "Old Shi. Why didn't you tell me earlier, girl?" Tong Yu originally wanted to put her dress on Zhang Lingzi, but now she pushed her out the door. "How can I let this old man wait? Go quickly, go." Zhang Lingzi was pushed to the door. If she hadn't been delayed for a while because of the dress, she would have been sitting in front of Mr. Shi by now. Tong Yu looked at Lu Zhengzheng again. "Zhengzheng, you follow." Lu Zhengzheng hurriedly waved her hands and pushed out Su Ling'an, who was standing behind her. "Sister Zixi, let Anan accompany you." "I'm nervous." Zhang Lingzi thought about the last time Lu Zhengzheng ate with her and Shi Lao at the same table. The man who could have finished 2 bowls of rice was so nervous that he didn't take a few bites and didn't force it. "Then Anan, come with me." Su Ling'an nodded and followed out the door. "Take the elevator all the way to the hotel lobby, and across an executive corridor is a leisure area." There were not many people in the leisure area. Zhang Lingzi saw Mr. Shi sitting at a long tea table by the window from a distance. There was an old man sitting opposite Mr. Shi. The two looked like they were playing chess. Just as she was about to walk over, Su Ling'an, who was following behind her, suddenly exclaimed, followed by a hoarse apology, I'm sorry, did it hurt you?" "It's okay, I was just careless." Zhang Lingzi turned around and her eyes fell on the 2 people who looked like headless blue wings. What happened? Su Ling'an quickly explained, Sister, I didn't pay attention to my steps when I was walking just now, and I accidentally kicked someone's luggage on the ground. She just didn't know what was inside. She almost thought she had kicked an iron plate just now. It was only then that Zhang Lingzi noticed the oversized woven bag on the carpet that was incompatible with the surrounding environment. When Su Cheng looked at him with the eyes across from him, the usually carefree young man became nervous for no reason. My sister and I are waiting here. What, we live here too? After finishing speaking, a young man hurriedly walked over from the direction of the bathroom. I just went to the bathroom, why are you here? I said I just wanted to take a stroll, but this place is so big and winding, my sister and I accidentally got lost, do you believe it? Zhang Lingzi. Shen Heshen. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 279. Chapter 279. Join a group. Elderly care group. An encounter that was not even a minor conflict ended with the arrival of the respective parents. Zhang Lingzi took Su Ling'an and continued walking in the direction of Shi Lao. Here you go, sit down. Shi Lao still held a white chess piece in one hand, and pointed to the empty seat beside him with his free hand. What was that just now? The leisure area was empty and quiet. Just now Zhang Lingzi could see Shi Lao at a glance, and Shi Lao could naturally notice them. It's no big deal, it's been solved. Zhang Lingzi pulled Su Ling'an to sit down and looked at the black and white chess pieces on the chessboard. You should continue to concentrate on playing chess. Shi Lao smiled lightly, put down the white piece in his hand and pointed at the old guy opposite. This is Lao Li, the one I talked to in the mini-program before. Zhang Lingzi noticed that the old man was looking at him without revealing any trace since he came over. Now he listened to Mr. Shi's help in introducing him, and called him generously, Mr. Li, I am Zhang Lingzi. Little friend Zhang, it's better to be famous than to meet. I've been listening to Lao Shi to mention you all the time, and my ears are almost getting calluses. Today is a meeting. By the way, whenever I have time, I will always show up at the imperial capital of the Go Association. There are a bunch of old men and women inside who are very curious about you. Go Association. Zhang Lingzi looked at Mr. Shi, who had an unnatural look on his face. Ahem, I've corrected you so many times, Lao Shitu, you don't need to add the last word when you call me. Hang Mei finished correcting the problem of calling his old friend, and then Mr. Shi met Zhang Lingzi's eyes. Well, it's not that there have been too few young children who have been able to join the Go Association in recent years. In addition, I personally recommended you to join, so everyone inside is very curious about you. I told them that you, this girl, usually they were busy with work, so they calmed down a bit. By the way, when talking about this, Mr. Shi remembered something again and took the mobile phone aside. I'll drag you into the association's communication group and say hello to those old guys in the group first. How about it? That's fine. Zhang Lingzi happily took out her phone. It won't have any impact. I heard that you celebrities can't reveal your privacy, otherwise you may be in danger. Zhang Lingzi shook her head, I don't have much privacy here. She knew what Mr. Shi meant. Just like Lu Zhengzheng, she would post on moments whenever she had something to do. She would post about her delicious food and daily life, and even sometimes she would share a good-looking photo. But her circle of friends is completely blank. First of all, she doesn't like to share things everywhere, and secondly, it's because of the prudence she has developed in her bones. That's good, that's good. Soon, Zhang Lingzi saw that there was a group called Group for Elderly Care among her mobile friends, with 37 members. After clicking on it, I received several colorful emoticons representing welcome. The one invited in by old man Shi, Zhang Lingzi, is that little friend Zhang, right? This old guy finally stopped hiding. I just clicked on the new member's information and took a look. The girl is only 22 years old. Should we change the group name? Zhang Lingzi looked at the various text boxes that flashed across the screen. When she clicked on the dialog box to type and introduce herself, there were already more than 10. Of course Mr. Shi also saw it, and he narrowed his eyes guiltily. These people usually have a lot of free time. Zhang Lingzi clicked to send. Hello, seniors, I am Zhang Lingzi. Okay, hello, little friend Zhang. Newcomer's stunning photo. Zhang Lingzi. Shi Lao. He quickly sent a private message to the person who wanted to make a joke. Sister you're almost done. It's not like you haven't seen the episode where she played chess with Zhang Lingzi. Don't scare that little girl away. The Go Association does not belong to Mr. Shi alone. Although with his position, others must give some face to recommend someone to join the association, but the recommended person must have real ability in order to be truly recognized by other members of the association. When it comes to entering the Go Association, Shi Lao's recommendation was the stepping stone. Then it was the game between Zhang Lingzi and Zhang Lingxi that made other people in the association decide to accept her. Go is indeed complex if you say it is complex, but it is indeed simple if you say it is simple. If you lose, and if you win, you win. After briefly responding to the enthusiasm of the seniors, Zhang Lingzi looked at the white piece on the chessboard that was already in trouble because she accidentally placed a wrong position because of the greeting, "Old Shi, you are about to lose." Shi Lao. He frowned and thought for a while, which one do you think is better? Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows, stretched out her hand and tapped one place. Seeing clearly where her fingers landed, the two old men frowned. You really want to do this? Well, let's put it to death and survive. Two pairs of old eyes quietly stared at the crisscrossed chessboard. They were calm on the surface, but in fact they were concentrating on the life and death of the next move. Even Su Ling'an, who had been sitting quietly next to him, felt nervous and couldn't help but turn his head and glance at the side. When he saw that calm and still side face, he calmed down. Haha, what broke the silence was Mr. Li's sudden laughter. He put the black piece back into the chess basket with a look of appreciation on his face. What a spirit. It's not raining anymore, let's drink tea. This time he insisted on coming here with his old friend to play chess and drink tea, and he may not have wanted to test the spot. Now that the test is over, he is a little jealous of this old stone. The child who just fell into love is not someone who has such courage, and is a more precious girl. Why did you let this old stone hit you first? He poured a cup of tea and handed it over. Zhang Lingzi made a fist with her palm down and tapped it 3 times on the table before taking the teacup with both hands. Putting away the chessboard, Mr. Shi looked at Su Ling'an, who was sitting quietly next to Zhang Lingzi. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, "Who is this girl?" He just met Zhang Xiao's assistant a few days ago. Has he been replaced in just a few days? My sister, Su Ling'an Zheng was busy upstairs and didn't come down with me. When Mr. Shi heard Zhang Lingzi explain to him after introducing the person, he knew that the girl could tell what he was thinking, and he quickly yelled, "This kid is very well behaved at first sight. Ling'an, come and drink 2 tea, don't be restrained." Thank you, Mr. Shi. The meeting here was a pleasant one, and on the other hand, the move-in of the Su family siblings was also smooth. Shen Heshan saw that they could get lost even in the hotel lobby, so he simply sent Buddha to the west, and finally sent them all the way to the arranged hotel suite, and then planned to say goodbye and leave. Upon hearing that he was leaving, Sicheng resisted the urge to try out all the facilities in the room that he had never seen before, and quickly asked, "Which room are you staying in?" "I don't live here." At this time, even Su Yi raised his eyes and looked over. "Didn't the program team assign you a room?" It's been allocated, but my cousin is in the imperial capital. When I come back this time, I want to live with him and exchange feelings between cousins. Shen Heshen didn't know what he thought of, but he looked expectant when he said this. Just a surprise for him. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 280. Chapter 280. Zhang Lingzi, your sister is very powerful. Leaving Suyi in the room to pack his luggage, Sucheng volunteered to see Shen Heshen off. Mr. Shen. Don't call me that, Shen Heshen interrupted quickly, we should be about the same age, you can just call me Heshen. In their Shen family, whenever they talk about Mr. Shen, everyone can only think of one person. He does not dare to bear this title. Well, Heshen, thank you for your help along the way, otherwise my sister and I would have been walking to the hotel in the bright sun, and we wouldn't even know how to use the elevator when we got here. Sucheng now scratching his head, his usual playful smile was gone. People could clearly feel the solemnity and seriousness in his words. Anyway, I'm very grateful. Although I know that a young master like you probably doesn't need my help, I, Sucheng, still have to promise that as long as I am still in this imperial capital, as long as you have any use for me, I will define my righteousness. Obligated. Yes, that's the word. Shen Heshen looked at the young man in front of him who was wearing clothes that no longer fit him well. On the way here, he could feel that the siblings had been trying their best to suppress their nervousness and embarrassment, and tried their best to behave generously and appropriately. In his eyes, this is a pair of very hard-working siblings. So even though he felt it was not necessary, he still nodded and responded seriously, okay. Sucheng smiled in relief. Suyi sat on the soft and clean carpet in the room and opened the zipper of the woven bag. There were not only neatly folded clothes, but also 2 rolled blankets that could be spread or covered, and even a small iron pot that could boil water for cooking. The lunchbox contained dried flour cakes and there are pickles in small cans, and there are even 2 small folding mats at the bottom of the bag. The main thing is that it has all the basic necessities, food, housing, and transportation, which is called a comprehensive one. But now I see that many of the things I have brought will not be used. A soft sofa can be used instead of a mesa, and a large bed and a soft quilt can be used instead of a blanket. A small iron pot can be used, but she does not dare to light a fire in such a clean room. In the end, only a few clothes and edible food were taken out of the woven bag. Just as he dragged the woven bag to the corner and put it away, the door behind him opened with a sound, "Sister." Suyi turned her head and waved to Sucheng, who was walking over, and pointed at the noodles and pickles she had just put on the table. "I just checked it and it hasn't gone bad. We're running out of time. Let's eat this cushion first." Abdomen. Sucheng washed his hands, picked up a piece of bread and took a bite. After swallowing, he couldn't help but look at the bottled water on the table and stretched his neck. "Sister, can you drink this water?" "Have no idea." "Then don't drink it, it will be bad if you ask for money," he said, picked up the teacup next to the bottle, went to the sink to get a glass of water, and drank it in a few sips. But when Suyi also took another cup to get the water, he stopped him and said, "Sister, you drink this. I'm used to drinking cold water, and my stomach is very strong. What if you get diarrhea from drinking?" "Yes, you can't delay filming the show because of drinking water." Suyi looked at the bottle of water handed over by his brother, gritted his teeth and unscrewed the cap. The siblings sat in front of the table and ate half full of cakes and pickles. Then they each took clean clothes and went to the bathroom to wash up. Sucheng specially changed into a pair of black pants and white short sleeves. Among his few clothes, this is the one he wears least often and looks the latest. The main point is not to embarrass my sister. Suyi also put on a skirt that she bought and made herself. She usually kept it on the bottom of the box and only took it out to wear during festivals. Before coming this time, She took it out from the bottom of the box and put it into a woven bag. After drying her hair for 8 minutes, she tied it into a low braid. After looking in the mirror and checking the time, the siblings hurried out. Asterisk. You really don't need me to follow you. Zhang Lingzi shook her head firmly towards Tong Yu. It's not a formal recording. This meeting should just be to discuss the subsequent program process. It's really not necessary. Well, Tong Yu could only nod. If you meet Jing Huai, keep your face in front of others. Tong Yu. She waved her hand. It's okay, let's go. Zhang Lingzi walked out of the room, followed by Su Ling'an and Lu Zhengzheng, one on the left and one on the right. 3 people walked through the corridor and stood at the elevator entrance to wait for the elevator. Noticing someone approaching, Lu Zhengzheng immediately turned sideways in an experienced manner to prevent anyone from deliberately approaching. Su Ling'an followed suit when he saw this, and then turned to look at the person who came. At this sight, I couldn't help but let out a sigh. Hey, it's you. Su Cheng was afraid of being late, so he originally wanted to squeeze in front with Su Yi so that he could be the first to get on the elevator when it came, but he paused after seeing the people in front of him clearly. Su Ling'an saw him standing 1 meter away and nodded slightly in response. Get on the elevator, go down to the first floor, and then exit the hotel. Looking up, you can see the tall building standing opposite. The 5 large characters Emperor TV station on the building are particularly eye-catching. When they were crossing the street together, and seeing that the other person was still heading in the same direction as him, Su Cheng finally couldn't help but tentatively said, "You guys are going to the Imperial TV station too, right?" However, he was not asking Zhang Lingzi, who was walking at the front, but Su Ling'an, who seemed to be more talkative. Su Ling'an looked at her sister walking in front and hummed politely. Su Cheng's eyes suddenly lit up and he said with a proud tone, "My sister and I came here specifically to participate in the program Heritage. Have you heard of this program?" The calligraphy and painting chapters in this issue were selected from hundreds of people. There are 6 places, and my sister is one of them. He showed off so fast that Su Yi couldn't stop him in time. By the time he finished speaking, Su Yi had 2 blushes on his face. Hearing the boy's proud voice, Zhang Lingzi, who had been walking without looking away, turned to look at the siblings beside her, focusing on the blushing girl. The other party changed into a light blue skirt, with simple white embroidery on the skirt and waist, and her hair was simply styled. She no longer looked like her previous image, which was dusty all the time. The boy next to him also changed his clothes and was much cleaner and fresher. And at first glance, she has the opposite personality to her sister, which was proved just now. But what impressed her most was the huge woven bag. Very powerful. She responded seriously. When studying calligraphy and painting, whether it was the ancient times she lived in her previous life or the present modern times, she found one thing in common. Those who study these are basically either from a good family background or from a wealthy family. There are still only a few ordinary families who specialize in learning calligraphy and painting. Because whether you hire famous teachers or buy pens, inks, paper, inkstones and paints for calligraphy and painting, you must have enough money to support it. This brother and sister are not wealthy at first glance, but the elder sister can still stand out among hundreds of works. In her opinion, she is really awesome. Su Cheng suddenly grinned and narrowed his eyes. He felt that this compliment was particularly weighty, even less weighty than Mr. Jian, who taught his sister calligraphy and painting. Su Yi also suppressed his nervousness, blushed, and whispered thank you in a low voice. As they were talking, several people had already reached the entrance to the foyer of the Imperial TV building. A black business car suddenly drove over from one side of the ramp and stopped in front of the gate before them. Zhang Lingzi pulled Su Cheng back, who had not yet reacted. The next second, the car door in front of the 2 of them was opened from the inside, and a voice came from inside the car, "Brother Huai, wake up, we are here." End of this chapter.